Hi, everyone. Glad you're here. Glad you could make it. Last week, we had a great time looking through the Snowden files batch 4. We discovered some really interesting things about like the development of the PRISM program, that like kind of like the history of just before they had decided to develop it and what was leading to that. And we also discussed the development of the drone program, and it seemed to be the surveillance drones, then leading on to the weaponized drones. So I'm really glad you could join us, and we're going to keep looking and seeing what we find this time.
Hey, you guys, I'm just catching up. I've just got my pop-up chat for YouTube. I can see you all chatting away. Elizabeth, do you remember what document number we got up to last time? It was
I think it was about number 8, maybe.
Okay.
I hope that's right.
Because
I know we went through the PRISM one, but then we went through like just one or two after that.
I remember we did the Battlefield SIGINT document, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And then I think we did one more after that wasn't relevant from memory.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually have an updated version of the HTML file that I was using last time. And this will actually allow us to pull from local, and I'll be able to highlight sections of the document, which is what I wasn't able to do last time. So if you just bear with me for like 2 minutes, I will just get it downloaded. I'll also send you a copy, so you've got a copy.
Okay.
And I'll just let people know on Twitter that we are actually live now. So
okay, great.
I want to chat to everyone for a minute. I'll be right back.
Sure. I'll just check chat, see what everyone's saying.
Hi, Blake. I'm really happy to see you here. Hi.
We'll see what we find. Let me see. I'm just trying to figure out the exact document we got up to. I think, was it thanks for the great work? Does everybody remember?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, because I remember we talked about how the very first paragraph was secret. And it was talking about, you know, just kind of self-promotional stuff, but it didn't seem that serious. But then, yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was classified kind of highly. I don't, and then number 10 is Korea IMT holds six rock drill, and I don't think we had looked at that, or we skipped it either way.
So that's one of the ones that was in the intercept reporting. So
yeah.
I don't think we'll need to do that one. Okay.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I've got the new doc, and I'm just emailing it to you right now.
Great. I'm just tweeting and retweeting the fact that we're live and whatnot.
Cool, you're way ahead of me then. I'm just going to mute myself so everyone doesn't have to listen to me typing a 65 character password twice.
No problem. Yeah, I see Jenny Lynn just said that the had a question about YouTube fucking up a bit. Excuse my language, sorry. So I don't know if anybody else is having a problem. Let us know if that's the case. It looks like it's working fine for me. And Blake says it's working for him as well. So, but if there is a problem, then we want to know about it.
Okay, so that file is winging its way to you right now.
Okay, great.
I will go ahead and screen share, and we will get into the documents.
Sounds good. I got it.
Cool.
Awesome. So I guess I think so if we skip the Korea document, I think we'd be up to number 11.
Okay, let me see how this works, because I think it's going to download the individual file for each time I click on one.
Okay.
Let's discover together.
Yeah, it just opens like a PDF for me, and then I can highlight it.
Cool. So we are starting from number 11, perspectives from a summer intern, correct?
That sounds right to me.
Oh, I see. That's very clever. That is extremely clever.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
Thank you to the unnamed friend who did this awesome thing for us. Very cool. Okay, perspectives from a summer intern. So we're still in July too. Oh, look, now that's something. Just before we start, I was like studying again. I was going back over what we did last time, and I discovered something very fascinating. A few things actually, but in particular, the start date of Microsoft signing on to the PRISM program was September 11, 2007.
Huh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so it had obviously been sold to them as like, you know, this is the date of, this is a significant event in commemoration of 9/11. You will be helping to stop future terrorists, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't pick up on it at first because my brain is so used to like British date formats that when I saw it in the document, I read it differently. I read it as like, you know, 9th of 11th rather than 11th of 9th. But when I
have the same issue.
When I went back over, I saw that sure enough, the first corporate partner to sign on to PRISM signed on precisely the 11th of September, 2007.
That is amazing.
Okay, so let's move my Zoom. Oh, this is so emotive already. I stared across the desk at the retired admiral.
Yeah, I read that and that I grinned because it's ridiculous, but
the retired admiral who was a former director of the NSA and not one of his current professors. Bobby Inman is his current professor.
We need the world's tiniest violin right now for that guy and his writing.
So public policy. So international affairs and public policy we can add to and linguistics. So there's three known university paths that lead you into these agencies. And look at this in bold. The NSA was his all-time favorite job.
Deputy director of the CIA. So that's another really great example of the open door, the revolving door that you are always mentioning.
Yeah, so the senior executives, but right down to the analysts as well, move back and forth between NSA and CIA. Because I remember when Snowden first came out, I remember a number of people being like shocked, like, how can he be a CIA guy and an NSA guy? Like this must be suspicious. Like it must be, you know, linked to some CIA operation in the NSA or something. But it couldn't be any further from the truth from what we found in the documents.
Yeah. So it's talking about summer internships.
Yeah. The NSA has done something highly intelligent and commendable, investing time and resources into interns. Okay, so there's like pretty much nothing in that whatsoever. This is
No.
yet again what they studied, their pathway, their academic pathway into the position is, in my opinion, the most interesting factor.
Yeah, and I'm just writing down on my notes that I'm taking that that it's just another example of the revolving door, because I like collecting those. And there are other things that you want to see over and over again to show the pattern and kind of note that.
Look at the name of the next document.
Yeah.
Executives and mid-level managers transform your energy levels. So I assume they're saying that the pace is so high when they're talking about the operations tempo.
And so it's a seminar presented by Dr. Jim Lower, who's CEO and co-founder of LGE Performance Systems. So I would be interested in Googling that or looking that up.
Management learning services.
Yeah. Just because to me, that's that issue again, where you have companies coming in and giving seminars to the NSA. You have companies kind of interacting with the NSA and blurring those lines between them a little bit.
The learned opportunities. What was the name? There was a name for the companies, specifically for the partners. Learned organizations, LOs.
That's right.
That's it, learned organizations. Better understand the role of energy renewal.
Rituals to eliminate physical.
I was just reading exactly the same.
I'm like, what exactly does that mean?
Rituals to eliminate physical and mental barriers to peak performance.
I mean, is that talking about some sort of meditation practice or yoga? I mean, it's just an interesting word to use there.
I'm not sure. I think to call these guys high performers is probably an understatement.
Yeah.
From my studies and experiences so far.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot in there, but it's still kind of amusing. So,
if anything, it's contextual to everyone being overworked. The document where like all of the extra hours and overtime and everything. By the way, is our pirate pad functional yet?
Good question.
Oops. Okay, there's more about the intern program. Right, for a second. Who are both target and technology savvy. Now, let's look at the language here. Global Network Analyst, Global Network Forum. Global Network Forum was the Five Eyes meeting where they talked about using all the resources of all of the global network, the agencies in the global network. So Global Network Analyst is going to be an analyst who has access to all of those database, you know, the global network databases, the entire access to the entire global network rather than presumably just US stuff. After completing a 6-month tour in a TOPI, there's the Office of Primary Interest, right? Like there was the one in Germany, there's various ones. Interns choose 2 additional tours from other target offices. Okay, this is interesting too. I mean, Snowden wasn't an intern, but we know that like he was in DC. We know that he was in Hawaii, and we know that he was in Japan.
Yes, I remember.
So the suggestion here is that everybody who is brought in will be sent to here, there, or, you know, I mean, it says they get to choose 2 additional tours. They complete a 6-month tour in an office of primary interest, a target office of primary interest, and then choose additional tours from other target offices. The Office of Target Pursuit, that's the first I've heard of them. So we've read about the Target Analysis Center and Cryptologic and Exploitation Services. We've read about the Network Analysis Center, which is where the social network analysts and analysis and all of that was happening. Office of Target Pursuit. Tailored Access Operations. These are the super famous penetrators of systems worldwide, the offensive operation hackers.
I remember that.
Special source operations. Now look, that special source, remember from the Global Network Forum document? It referred to the business vision document and to the subsection of it, and then it gave 3 keywords, or 3 key phrases, keywords, key phrases, whatever you want to call them. One was special source. It said special source. And I was like, what is special source? So special source is a team, the special source operations team. And the special collection service. So the question is, what's special about it? Because what that sounds like to me is where the requests are coming from is special. Who the customers they serve are special. Like, is this our Iraqi baseball cards, or is this something like coming directly from the administration, or like what is the difference? You know, special source operations. I would love to know what that is and what they do.
Would special collection be some, I mean, this sounds like such a silly question to me, but maybe somebody else is wondering this. Would this be where, I mean, they're dragnet, assuming that they're dragnetting pretty much everything, it would be like, we want to especially target so-and-so, or would that be?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. I think there's a myriad of possibilities at this point, but special source operations and special collection service, this is like assisting in operations, and this is collection. So this is going to be somehow related to human intelligence, because it's going to be it's in support of human intelligence. And this is the SIGINT.
Yeah.
But it's clear to me that that's a specific team.
Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds right.
It could be anything. The special source could be like one of the NSA or CIA's own sources on the ground that they're supporting, or it could be a special target list, you know, from a special customer. We don't know yet. Demonstrating analytic attacks. Someone will discuss the passive exploitation of wireless networks, and someone else will share results from analysis performed to tie together passive and active collection against emerging technology. I'd love to know what that emerging technology is, given that it's like 2004.
Definitely.
And yet again, the showcase is US only.
That makes sense. Yeah.
The position is global network. So while, but then 5i is also included. That's interesting. I wonder why they would include 5i if it's US only.
That's odd.
Unless they mean you have to physically be in the US only.
Do you discern? It definitely sounds like a contradiction. I don't know what explains it, but
well, if they're saying like if you're not physically in the US, you can't attend because you have to actually be there in person. Yeah. You can't attend remotely. It won't be videotaped.
That makes sense. That probably is
that's how I read that. So you need to be physically present. Then let's go back again. This doesn't say who is giving the showcase. It appears to be just NSA staff then. Yeah. These are obviously names of NSA staff members. Okay. I'm pretty sure this would have been in the must have been in the Intercept reporting because pretty much anything relating to Iraq or Al-Qaeda they reported on.
Yeah, I remember us going over that at the end of last time.
Baziani. Oh, this is interesting. The following organizations made great contributions: Network Analysis Center, Counterterrorism Product Line, Commercial Technologies, Tailored Access Operations, Link Access Programs, Keyscore, Keyscore, and CSG, Baghdad.
Interesting.
The CIA would like to pursue all opportunities to incorporate SIGINT in near real time into tactical human intelligence operations. We knew this already. Painting as timely and accurate picture of the virtual battleground as possible. Yeah, I was reading something this week where the drone targeting operations were being done on based on signals intelligence that was 12 months old.
Wow, that's
intelligence from sources that were 12 months old.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So do they have such a backlog of information? Is that how long it takes them to process the information? Like, how can it be that they're acting on intelligence that's 12 months old?
What was that in 2004? They were still having that lag?
On some of the, I'm trying to remember what it was on. It was one of the reportings from the NGOs where they'd gone and investigated. No, actually, it was in the New York Times piece where they'd gone and investigated on the ground in Mosul. They'd gone and actually met with the families and victims of drone killings. And they had then met with the US military and asked them to defend, what was the basis on which they were doing these things that were killing civilians. And time again, they were getting told, well, our information, our signals intelligence information, our information from informants, said that there was a horrific case that actually was covered where they had a guy, quite a well-off guy, like a really nice, like little mini mansion in Mosul by the river, and his brother had a matching mini mansion next to it, and their two families lived side by side. And one of them was a racing enthusiast. So he used to sit on the internet all day, every day, watching racing car videos and, videos of cars being assembled and manufactured and whatever. So the US government decided that he was manufacturing vehicles for ISIS.
Wow, what a
genius. And because this is the signals intelligence, right? They're looking at what this guy's looking at on his computer. Oh, he's looking at how to build like cars. Therefore, he's manufacturing cars for ISIS. Meanwhile, back in reality, he hated ISIS. He didn't want anything to do with ISIS, and he wasn't manufacturing any vehicles for anyone. But they came along and leveled his house. They called in an airstrike and flattened his house, killed his daughter, his wife, his nephew, his brother. Only he and the sister-in-law were left alive. And then after something like a year and a half of him trying to get redress from the US government, they offered him $15,000.
Wow, that's horrific.
Yeah, so the concern here is, let's stop the share so you guys can actually see us. The concern here is one thing to collect this intelligence, one thing to use the intelligence to support bombing operations or drone operations or ground operations. But where is the like checks and balances? How are you using intelligence that is a year old? And how are you, on the basis of someone having a nice house and watching videos of cars all day, how is that sufficient to decide that somebody is manufacturing vehicles for the enemies? I mean, he literally had a swimming pool. It wasn't like a fact. They had written him down the location of his house as being like a factory for producing heavy machinery. It was like a residential house with a swimming pool and kids.
Do you think that was a mistake, or is it an actual just a lie to have a pretext to go just bomb people?
Oh, look, I've got no idea.
Yeah,
that's virtually impossible to say. You know, someone's making money when they drop all those bombs, for sure. And the more bombs that are dropped, the more money that is made. Where the compromise happens in the chain of intelligence, I don't know. But the idea, there were other cases there where specifically information from informants was aged by 12 months at the time that the bombs were dropped. And that says to me that there's something seriously wrong.
Definitely.
And this comes back to the collected all as well, because, and like we're talking about that, the hospital map that they had the SIGINT of the Baghdad hospital from 1979. And the idea that they're like, you know, making operational decisions based on intelligence from that far back is like pretty crazy. But when they collect it all, why not? You know, they'll be like, oh yeah, we've got a copy of that, dig it out. Well, okay, cool. You had a copy that's like 30 years old, nearly 40 years old.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling.
I'll just check in with our chat. How are you guys going there? Okay, so the ISPs are, I'm just looking at what Matt's saying about the ISPs. The ISPs are a whole different kettle of fish, because it's not just that the ISPs, okay, so Matt said specifically, they get direct access from ISPs Prism. ISPs give NSA direct access to the servers. Oh, really? And he said he just read about special source operations on WikiLeaks. I was actually thinking when I was saying it, oh, we should look that up, because if there's something in there, that would be really, really helpful. Okay, so the ISPs in New Zealand, I believe New Zealand was the first country, there's a company too, but first country to implement this. The ISPs were forced to become intercept ready, which means that they had to literally backdoor themselves for the GCSB, which is our equivalent of the NSA. So it's not that they're doing it for kicks, but it's that they've been forced into a position where they legally have to comply. And they needed to be either intercept capable or intercept ready. And they had to have at least one staff member get a security clearance to then act, you know, liaise with the GCSB on collections. So the ISP staff have been deputized, literally deputized by the spy agencies. And they've been forced to become complicit. And you know what? That actually just reminds me back to that Global Network Forum document where they're saying we have to utilize the full resources around the world. Well,
yeah, finite resources, yeah.
Finite resources. They're even now utilizing ISP resources and staff. So that's how far the tentacles go. So I personally don't blame the ISPs. The ISPs hate that piece of legislation. They don't like it at all, but they're forced to comply. Okay, Cockatoo says that special is not routine.
That makes sense.
Matt says that a such and such PDF on WikiLeaks talks about special source operations and what it is. Oh, from the BND inquiry.
Interesting. Okay.
This I'm definitely going to have a look at right now. So the BND inquiry is the inquiry into the German intelligence services that came about as a result of the Snowden disclosures, where we discovered that Merkel and amongst others had been spied on by NSA.
Yeah, I remember that coming out. That was amazing to hear when it first came out.
And I will just shout out Decipher and others on Twitter who did an incredible job for years of attending the hearings every day and then covering it so that everybody in the world could understand what was going on. Now, the fact that this is all in German might not help us a lot.
Might hinder us a little bit.
Oh no, here we go. All right, so yeah, a lot of this just contained publicly available information that had been referenced in the inquiry from memory, and this might be what this is. Yeah, they're referencing the Washington Post.
Yeah.
And they're talking about PRISM. Okay, this is the original reporting by Baden-Gelman and Laura Poitras. So this is from very early on in the disclosures.
Yeah, I remember how huge that was when it broke.
I don't see special source on page 7. Am I blind? Matt, where is it on page 7? Can you show us the portion that you are?
Will it work if you control F special?
I'm not sure. Let's have a look.
Sometimes it works on PDFs and sometimes it doesn't.
No.
Okay. Oh, there. No, it's a couple times, I think. Oh no, never mind. There,
like market researchers, but with far more privileged access, collection managers in the NSA Special Source Operations Group, which oversees PRISM, are drawn to the wealth of information about their subject in online accounts. For much the same reason, civil libertarians and some ordinary users may be troubled by the menu available to analysts who hold the required clearances to task the PRISM. So that is interesting. So Special Source oversees PRISM. That I definitely did not know.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's really good to learn. Thank you for posting this, whoever linked it.
Thank you very much, Matt.
So that adds to basically, so we go back to the document that we just looked at that was talking about special source operations and special collection. Does that mean that this is kind of, again, going to the development of PRISM, or is it already, if it was talked about, if special source operations was happening in 2004, does that mean were they already overseeing the beginnings of something like PRISM, or?
No, it means that the group already, PRISM is just a piece of software. Yeah. So or it might be more of a portal, depending, web software anyway. The question, special source operations obviously existed prior to PRISM. Okay, PRISM is just a part of what, it's been developed either for their use or under them or by them.
Great.
Roots in the 70s. PRISM is an heir in one sense to a history of intelligence alliances with as many as 100 trusted US companies since the 1970s. The NSA calls these special source operations in PRISM. Okay, so now we know what they are. Yeah, so special source operations are operations that are involving a third party in the commercial sector.
Interesting.
Which is why PRISM falls under it.
That makes sense.
The Silicon Valley operation works alongside a parallel program codenamed Bellani that gathers up metadata. And commercial partnerships, right? So
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that totally explains what's going on.
Leverages intelligence community and commercial partnerships to gain access and exploit foreign intelligence obtained from global networks. Right.
If somebody hasn't done this already, if you could please add that link to the Pirate Pad, that would be great. Under special source or under the document that we looked at that had special source operations in it. Because when I write the article, I will definitely be rereading this to understand it again.
100 companies since the 1970s.
That's a mind-blowing statement, isn't it?
So then in theory, they would have previously had to go to those companies and make requests, whereas what Prism allows them to do is to search the databases directly.
Okay. So, and when you say make requests, you mean for like one source, or do you mean for a huge
Well, and so I'm thinking in the 1970s, a lot of it wouldn't be digitized. It wouldn't be computerized. It would be like physical records.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I've got no idea really what the what the signals intelligence abilities were in the 70s. Maybe they could have. There's a lot of that could have been tapped, but I would think a lot of the associated records would have required like interfacing with the company directly. And it would be interesting to know how they got from 100 trusted US companies since 1970s to like 7 or whatever in Prism. Is that the conglomeration of like the corporate sector that's responsible for that, or the modernization of the digital and tech sector? Like I'm forever talking about the fact that there are only 2 major mobile platforms operating systems in the world. Why is that for billions of users? It makes no logical sense whatsoever, and it's because they want it to be that way.
Yeah,
they absolutely want it to be that way, and that's why you see technologists, that's why the whole startup culture exists, because that's why the CIA has like in QTEL, that's why they invest in these new technologies, is so that they can control them, so that they can control the direction of them, so that they can monopolize them, so that they can prevent decentralized or the decentralization of tech. They want to keep everything centralized. They want to keep these choke points, these funnel points.
That makes a lot of unfortunate sense, for sure.
Yeah, and then those technologists who don't sell out, who won't sell to them, who won't give over the technologies, they end up targeted. And it's rather unpleasant. It's very much you take the money or you take the heat, and most people can't take the heat from the global intelligence mafia.
Yeah. That explains a lot, and I know that you can say the same thing for media in a lot of ways, like meaning like just media like news, that people are getting the same. It just happens over and over and over again in a lot of different areas. So
very true. Very, very true. Okay. So thank you, Matt. That was very enlightening, like really good to know more about special service operations. Thank you very much for that.
Extremely helpful.
Have a quick look and see what else is in chat. It's on the pirate pad, so that's good.
Yeah, good. Great. Thank you, whoever did that. I will definitely be reading that again.
So the original pirate pad is still down. We will have to talk to the pirates and try and work out why that is. I would love to know what it was that we put in there that we got in so much trouble about.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we'll have to just make copies of it periodically and keep it and whatnot. But yeah, that really that explains so much. Thank you for posting that. Which document are we up to?
That was super cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just catching up on the chat. So now we can move on. We just did the intern, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we did the Al-Qaeda capture. Right.
What's this DD awareness?
Screen share. Sorry. DD awareness. D&D. I'm guessing they don't mean Dungeons and Dragons. Awareness at NSA.
I doubt that's what that means, but
Larry Gershwin, National Intelligence Officer, something for intelligence assurance. Oh, hang on. Did we do this? This is the deception and denial. Denial and deception. Did we, or is this just on the same topic?
Maybe we didn't. I don't think we did, actually. The redactions are
no,
different.
I don't remember this. I don't remember these. Okay.
Awesome.
Oh, look, they even have like an acronym for it.
Wow.
Denial and deception awareness training, adversarial denial and deception analysis course, and special topics in denial and deception.
Countering denial and deception implementation plan. Huh. Yeah, the Gershwin is the same name, and that's what tripped me up.
I'm laughing away. I'll keep my jokes to myself.
Oh, that they can't access the document?
No, if you're still unable to access the document, please call Snowden for assistance.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Lol. Very funny. Okay. Next. Okay, so isn't this what the guy just said that they gave out to the exec? Received a SID coin. Okay. He presented an executive briefing on denial and deception and received a SID coin from the Chief of Staff, Charles Berlin. And then this next document, I have established a SID deployment coin for NSA CSS personnel who are deployed in support of the SID mission since 9/11.
Wow. Okay.
The development coin is in recognition of the exemplary service and performance of the men and women of NSA CSS who have deployed overseas in support of the global war on terror.
We are currently working to establish a list of those deployed, blah, blah, blah.
The Friedman, or it always cracks me up reading the Friedman auditorium. Do you see that nonsense? Friedman,
Yeah.
out of God. Typical that they're naming buildings after.
I'm not picking up anything particularly interesting in this, unless you are.
No,
I mean,
no. It's just another line for the CV, I'm pretty sure. Oh, God.
Sure. Wow.
Every time I read about them being given Microsoft tools, I want to cry. Not only is a Windows workstation coming to your desk with Microsoft Office automation tools, but all of your email and personal files will be transferred, operating system and Java upgrades, and the network to your new desktop computer will be modernized. So they're doing a giant like rollout. These lucky folks.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't see anything particularly interesting there. Just the fact that they use Windows is kind of amusing, but
Okay, so prior to this, they talked about using Dell workstations.
mm-hmm.
I assume they were talking hardware. Windows. What's the date on this? Still in July 2004. NSA and GCHQ. Okay, so what high frequency signals is one of the oldest forms of SIGINT.
Yeah, I was reading that and that was all new to me. I'm sure maybe it's not for you, but that was, I had no idea. It was interesting to read that it was developed in the 80s and 90s and that, yeah, that it went back that far.
Reading these, it's just hilarious that Hillary Clinton ever claimed she didn't know what C meant.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that she could say that with a straight face, you know.
This is standard practice for politicians, though. I do not recall.
Yeah, I am very, very presidential, but I can't remember anything at all.
I do not recall my name or the date.
I don't know how classification works, but I'll be a great commander-in-chief. Don't you worry. Anyway.
Okay, and this is, Five Eyes. Okay.
Yeah, I saw the mention of the joint program. Breaking new ground for the UK-USA agreement.
Okay, let's see what chat says. Shiny medals. Employers quite often surveil their employees. Microsoft enables that. That is extremely true. The Microsoft is literally an employee surveillance suite. I completely agree with you. What difference does it make at this stage? Anyways, it's correct.
I love that.
That is very, very true. Okay, I don't see anything particularly interesting here, but I haven't read the last paragraph. The joint program is breaking new ground for the UK-USA agreement. Well, maybe that is interesting. The two countries,
yeah, that's what I thought was interesting,
that are deployed in response to US and UK requirements, and each will have access to the other's front-end resources. Well, that's going to apply to the whole global network, apparently. Look for a future article for an overview of GLAIVE and its current and future capabilities.
Each will have access to each other's front-end resources. Yeah. I don't know if that in itself is significant, but it just comes back to that idea of national sovereignty being kind of meaningless when it comes to this issue.
Yeah, one of the things that I need to do in my lifetime, and sooner rather than later, is to read the full text, because apparently the full text is available of the UK-USA agreement. I don't think it became available until like early to mid 2000s, which interestingly, we know from that other thing that there's been a new agreement in 2004. I think it was like 2003 or 2004 that the UK-USA agreement even became available to read. I would like to read it because I'd like to know how much of what we're studying in these documents is not contained in that original agreement. I want to know what the original parameters were. So yeah, when they say this is breaking new ground for the agreement, well, I read that as we are functioning outside of that agreement.
Yeah. That's true. That's a good point.
we are working outside of the confines of that agreement, which would explain then why we found that there was a new 2004 agreement between GCHQ and NSA. And even somewhere in here did it not passively reference that.
I think so.
In relation to the joint program, there was some mention here. Corporate high-frequency services at NSA is an integral part of the joint program.
Corporate. What is that? What does the use of corporate mean there? Does that mean they're having outside companies do it? I mean, forgive my ignorance asking that question, but.
One more time. Sorry, which section?
Where we corporate it's the next paragraph under the one that you're highlighting right now. It says corporate high frequency services at NSA is an integral part of JP, primarily providing project management.
That's a team reference again. So that's like the NSA has a team called corporate high frequency services.
Yeah.
What is an integral part of the joint program between the GCHQ and the NSA.
So they're direct. Am I understanding it right to say that if I say that they are actually outsourcing this work to corporations, is that what they're saying there?
Well, I don't know, because they reference everything in NSA as being a corporate service. Like they see themselves as providing corporate services. So it could be that they're working with private corporate partners. I don't know, or it could be that they are providing services, providing corporate services.
That makes sense. That makes more sense if they're referring to themselves as corporate there.
Well, yeah, if you remember, it's money in, money out. And that's why they call it the business. Like they're not just receiving money from Congress, they're also earning money. They're literally an earning operation. I wonder if this is the meat in the sandwich of the new agreement, and that the new agreement led to the establishment of this joint program, or at least that this joint program is a major component of that new agreement, because we knew that they signed the new agreement, but we didn't know what was in it or what the purpose of it was. And I'm wondering if this is a part of it. It seems to be to me. I think this sentence here is the giveaway.
Yeah, I agree.
That is the giveaway. Okay. I mean, them working together is not new, but the fact that they signed a new agreement in 2004 and now they're giving the details of this joint program seems to be related. Okay, definitely. Let's go back. African petropolitics. So this sounds like it will be complementary to that West Africa document that we wrote up from the last batch.
Yeah. By 2015, the United States will depend on West African oil for 25% of its oil import.
This is regurgitating it from the prior document that we already read.
Yeah.
That's new. The billions of dollars a year is new. That is interesting as well. Oil wealth sharing is a primary negotiating issue in the peace process. Threats to and security of the oil producing areas in West Africa will be discussed, including US engagement to improve security. We know from the prior document that they are deploying military in support of not just the security of the nations, but securing the flow of oil to the US and its allies was the direct wording used in the article. Are you putting document name references in your notes?
I'm just handwriting. I'm referring to the number, and I'm just writing down anything.
Okay, cool. Okay,
yeah,
so,
that's why I keep asking
as
what
long
the
as
number
there's
is.
some reference to what doc, you're fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's nice to kind of go through them quickly today, because I mean, the last time was wonderful that we found so much significant stuff, but and this is number 20, new voice processing tools. Is that what you're looking at?
30-day default retention of untouched data and 5-year default retention of metadata.
Yeah.
Technology surveys is announcing surveys instead of services is announcing that they have a spell check.
Wow.
Very good. This stuff doesn't mean much to me because I believe that the scope has changed so much in the years since.
That makes sense. I agree with that.
So I don't think it's entirely relevant. It's interesting to note like where it was, you know, back in 2004, but I think it's been rendered irrelevant since then.
Definitely.
Okay. Oh, and that is okay. So actually, that was interesting from a software development perspective. That was interesting. So they're doing this all in-house, is what this means.
Okay, yeah.
So they are creating and servicing their own software for the linguists, for the 6,500 linguists that are globally deployed.
Yeah, that's important, definitely. And that's good to bring up. I remember last time how we noticed that the vastly largest number of people they were employing were the linguists.
Were the linguists, and here we see we consider our customers to be our primary application designers, so they are creating customized solutions in-house, which is, you know, vastly best practice for something like this. In service of the linguist, but then we see so much other stuff is outsourced.
Mm-hmm. So,
which reminds me of what Cockatoo said before about Microsoft is, you know, great for surveilling your workforce. You would hope that the NSA people would be able to surveil their workforce without relying on Microsoft, without using Microsoft frameworks for surveillance. Just checking chat again.
Yeah, the whole African topic is definitely more relevant now than it was maybe a few years ago, I think, or at least it's had more attention lately in the last couple of years.
They should know a thing or two about corruption, says Cockatoo. Hey. Okay. Thinking of PCSing as opposed to PMSing. And that's it.
That's literally, wow, that's odd.
We're moving to Windows NT. So that was the other interesting thing. Was I was reading, I mean, you can probably see here from my browser that I've been reading a ton of stuff. I've been going over a ton of stuff from 2010 WikiLeaks and Manning. And there's a very interesting part where Manning says that he, at that time, now she, asked a system security specialist if they were aware of any breaches or outgoing traffic, unauthorized traffic, and they said that's not a priority.
Interesting, huh?
It was not a priority for them to monitor that.
Why would that be not a priority? Because it's not a problem in their eyes, or because
because they're given priorities, and at that time it was literally not a priority, not a business priority.
Okay.
Right? Like these guys are constantly being briefed on the business vision, and the business vision did not involve monitoring the network for outgoing traffic. But I just thought that was very interesting, and also that she's talked of it in terms of there being like one guy. Like, I talked to that guy that does that, as opposed to like that team or that. You know, it was very much like there's this one dude whose job is.
And that goes back to like we were talking, like we were seeing earlier, where they have so few people employed in these positions.
Exactly. That's interesting.
DMS is a document management and analytic knowledge sharing system. It provides users with DMS My Files repositories, which can be customized and personalized. In addition, DMS gives users access to large numbers, blah, blah, blah. Need to know documents for read and search purposes. Currently, there are 50 organizational repositories available in DMS.
This would, looking the other way, like looking in at the user of it, this allowing them to customize and personalize it is going to allow anyone, an administrator, to see what the focus is of that person. That's the focus and the interest and the time sink and be interesting to know what denial and deception techniques are employed by NSA employees to foil their own systems administrators to prevent them from monitoring that type of thing.
EWS helps them to share data, it looked like. Analyze and report.
Collaboration.
Yeah. I've never heard of EWS.
E-workspaces.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
EWS will be e-workspaces.
Got it. You may choose to discuss your conclusions with second-party partners. Instant messaging.
I mean, a lot of the stuff that they had in 2004 is what became available in the commercial space much later.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well.
This is conferencing packages, commercial conferencing, web conferencing packages. But they're of a higher quality than you would have been able to access in the commercial space, presumably in 2004. I'm sure with the exception of NSA partner companies, which would have been able to.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that taking a look at all your target records grouped by nationality, location, organization, and profession, or any way you choose to organize them and drill down to. So yeah.
Another thing Manning said that she had hundreds of targets, dozens or hundreds of targets. You know, it's really fascinating. I'm not sure if you saw what I put on Twitter.
Yeah, I did actually. I remember
that screenshot that I put in that tweet is extremely interesting.
Yeah, so I might want to link your tweet.
Interesting thing that I've seen this week, actually.
If anybody's got this document up, if you make a section for this on Pirate Pad, if you would include Suzie's tweet with Manning's statement. Yeah, I read this today earlier. Yeah, that is a very, very powerful statement.
Hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Most other analysts didn't care, but I knew I was playing a role in the lives of hundreds of people without them knowing that Manning was playing that role.
Yeah.
But I cared and kept track of some of the details to make sure everybody was okay. This is something that this is a discussion that's going to become extremely relevant one day. Extremely relevant. And that's going to be, what is the ability and capacity of a moral analyst, or anyone, I mean, it doesn't even have to maybe it's an executive, not an analyst, anyone who has access. What is their capacity to use the matrix to serve humanity? What is their capacity to work to right, you know, only on a small scale, but work to right some of the wrongs in the system? This is what is so significant to me, this tweet.
And to maybe prevent some wrongs.
Incredibly significant. Yeah. Manning is admitting to having used the system to help people.
Yeah. And maybe prevent some people. Yeah, exactly.
I could tell there are a lot of stories I could tell from back in occupied days, because this isn't just like an NSA thing or a US Army thing. This is anybody who is within the system, whether it's at a corporate partner, whether it's at a government agency, whether it's at some fusion center, whether it's a police officer, whether it's they have the capacity and the ability to use the power of the systems and use the scope of the systems to effect positive change, to intervene in the evil that is being perpetuated. If they are clever enough and careful enough, they could do phenomenal things.
Yeah, but then you see what Manning said as well, is that most people didn't care. And she said most analysts were not doing that. And it
would never have occurred to them, because they'd never been taught that in training, had they? They'd been taught, like that manager says, the NSA manager, you have to be an amnesiac. They've been taught to be an amnesiac. They've been taught to justify everything. Oh, they're just sand niggers. Oh, they're just whatever. Oh, Islam's been at war for thousands of years. Oh, you know, all these justifications that they have, like all that they regurgitate to justify what they're a part of. They justify it so that they don't have to intervene. So they don't have to intervene. They don't have to take remedial action. They don't have to take personal responsibility, right? So this is the discussion we've had in the past about why it is so much easier to go, fuck Julian Assange, than it is to go, WikiLeaks is important, we've got to fight for them. We've got to protect them. We've got to look after them because they protect us. We have to, see the bigger picture and act. It is so much easier, because as soon as you just write them off, as soon as you participate in the smear, you are absolved of any need to act. You're absolved of any responsibility to take a risk.
And the discomfort that empathy would cause.
Exactly. You know, I don't have to risk my own ass because Julian sent some tweet that I don't like. I don't have to, like, you know, this is the thing. And this is the same thing for the analysts. They are rewarded for inaction. They are incentivized. People are incentivized to smear WikiLeaks, and they're incentivized to turn their backs on WikiLeaks. Well, people within the system are incentivized to be amnesiacs.
Yeah.
They become managers. They rise up through the ranks. They obtain promotions. They earn more money by being amnesiacs, by turning a blind eye to the crimes of the system and the injustices of the system. But there are people like Manning who are different.
Yeah.
There are people like Manning who can't be a part of that, who won't be a part of that, and who are intelligent enough to turn the system against the system.
Yeah.
And we need more of those people.
Definitely. Oh, and then you also, because
people to know that it's possible. That's why I'm even having this conversation.
Yeah.
I'm having this conversation right now because we need people to know that it is possible. People who are in those positions and feel powerless and feel like, well, what can I do? You know, if I leave or I get targeted myself, or if I, you know, they actually can turn the system against the system. It can be done. And Manning was proof of that.
Absolutely. And looking at this and looking at what she said, you can really see how people without empathy and with a lack of that connection with people would rise to the top. And that's another barrier that's also there for people that are like Manning and that want to make a positive change. So
these people see empathy. These psychopaths who don't experience empathy, they see it as a weakness.
Definitely.
And they think that a lack of empathy is gives them superiority.
Absolutely.
But all the lack of empathy does is just dive the planet into a spiral to hell that, frankly, I don't want to live in, and no one else should want to live in either. And on, you know, the other side of it is that allowing yourself to feel empathy and allowing yourself to act for the greater good creates a better future and a better planet.
Yeah, and sometimes that involves discomfort, like caring about Manning or caring about the fact that Assange is in the embassy, or, you know, all of those things can be uncomfortable because we feel powerless. I think Caitlin Johnstone's done a great job of talking about this type of overall problem we're all facing as humanity right now. So anyway, I think that it's a big overall meta kind of problem, but I hope that our culture turns around and stops rewarding the psychopathic kind of outlook and personality in general. So I think if that doesn't turn around, then I don't see things being easy.
We have to change what we covet. In order to do that, we have to change what we covet as a society. Yeah. So we can't covet wealth or riches or power or position or prestige. We have to covet love. We have to covet love, like real love, not like.
It's ironic that we're having this conversation on Black Friday when a lot of Americans are out buying things, but yeah.
I don't know. I think there's been a massive growing awareness on that front.
I do too.
You know, post 2011 Occupy movement, I think there's a huge movements, you know, against the corporate capitalism. Maybe I'm not old enough to know how much that existed beforehand, but to me, there does seem to be a growing awareness, and even sectors of society that had no interest in it in 2011 now do discuss these issues and are aware of these issues in later years. So I take that as being a plus.
For sure.
But I'm very mindful of something, I think it was like the last line in the foreword that Julian wrote to the cypherpunks. Where he said, like, we either need to use the system to reform it, or we need to use it to accelerate its demise.
Yeah. So
that we can rebuild, so that we can build a new solution. And I think that he's completely right. And I think that every single person right now who's going to work is going to work in a job where they are inside of the matrix.
Yeah.
has the ability to either use that system in that position quietly themselves to create reform or to create justice, to perpetuate justice. I mean, we may never know the ways that Manning is saying he intervened in people's lives. He was given orders to do one thing, but his conscience changed the orders. Manning was giving herself orders. Manning was her own boss. Manning understood the power that was in her hands and utilized it according to her own conscience.
Yeah.
Acted according to her own conscience, not according to the orders from the chain of command. And that's what we need. We need people with that type of conscientiousness to understand what they have access to, understand the power that they have, to deprogram and decondition themselves from just blindly taking orders and from above, and to intervene in the mechanisms of the system, intervene in the operations of the system, and be the change.
Yeah, great.
Be the change.
I agree completely. I think this document, I think the Manning statement that you tweeted, I think is really important for sure in this whole conversation.
I feel like this one, I'm actually going to read it again because I feel like what is said here is so important.
Yeah.
I'm basically playing a vital role in their life without ever meeting them.
And that's so empowering, like that she took it on herself to do this. As you were saying, she gave herself her own orders. That is being empowered. That's having the personal kind of inner locus of control to say, this is what's right and I'm going to do it because I choose to, as opposed to just going along with what everybody else is doing. So
you're absolutely correct. But let's just empathize for a minute and let's put ourselves in that chair. Manning says, I watched the whole thing unfold from a distance. So what she's talking about is that she's watching people's lives unfold through the matrix. She's watching their relationships. She's watching their activities. She's watching their communications. She's watching every facet of their existence that we've discussed about, the social network analysis center and the target analysis center, all these different things. It's not voyeuristic because it's not like something she's doing for kicks. She's been trained. She's been given this skill, this power. So she's been given a skill and combined with the power of the access, and she's now watching. And at what point, she actually says at one point, like, it's not that I'm playing God. I don't think of myself as playing God or anything because I'm not. I'm just playing my role for the moment. I don't control the way that they react. So she's taking an action, but she's not responsible for their reaction, is what she's saying, which is really fascinating. But she says, I'm playing a vital role in their life without even meeting them. So she has the power to change people's lives for the worse or for the better. She can report them or accelerate them or decelerate them, prioritize or deprioritize them. She can, when we talk about this J-Trig stuff where they, that's like the ultimate interventions, they're actually like establishing fake personalities, having relationships with you, like changing the course of your life, changing your decisions, changing your feelings. And they're doing it all from some network center, in God knows where. She saw that she could divert from the path that she was trained and that she could intervene for the betterment of people. And she chose to do that. I think that is the most remarkable thing, the most remarkable story.
For sure, definitely.
Restoring the power of the conscience of the individual.
Definitely.
And using the matrix for public good. Which is what, ironically, what it's supposed to be for. It's supposed to, it's supposed to be its funded and intended purpose, right? Is to like help humanity. Well, she actually used it to help humanity, which is amazing, incredible.
Absolutely, for sure.
Sorry, chat, about my big long diatribe there, but that's something that's been like on my mind for days now. Okay, I'm just catching up on chat, and then we'll do some more docs. Oh my God, I'm so far behind. You can understand why Manning felt compelled to leak about the laughing helicopter shooters. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. You know, it's like, it's one thing to be socially conditioned into, or to be desensitized to these things. It's another thing entirely to derive pleasure from it. To derive pleasure from the deaths of human beings is, it goes to a greater societal question as well, you know, which is like everything like that we, even from the cartoons we show our children, of like one cartoon character bashing another cartoon character or dropping them off a cliff or whatever, you know. It really, we do have a culture of death, like in Western society.
Absolutely. Like it's a violent culture, and that goes to the whole concept of non-violence and all of this. But I think that it's an important conversation. I'm glad we talked about it, because I think it's really, really true and significant.
I noticed that actually, like someone called ISIS a death cult, and of course ISIS is a death cult. It beheads people for kicks. I mean, this is what a death cult does. But I feel that Western culture is also a death cult. It just is not quite so blatant about it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, in the op-ed I wrote just, I think this last week, about Yemen, I called it the economy of death, because I think it's, and I think that you can also definitely call it a culture of death too. That, I mean, what America does is it, you know, goes over to other countries and kills a lot of people, and we have a lot of deaths in our country that aren't necessary. And I think in a lot of different ways there's a profit that comes from that, whether it's, you know, and I could go off a long tangent, but I think culture or economy of death is very, very accurate, is all I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. And ties back into the reward system as well.
Yeah.
You're rewarded for a lack of empathy, rewarded for the desensitization.
Well, and that reinforces the whole problem, where you have the leaders that have the lack of empathy, so they're giving the orders and all that, you know, just, it's a circular, it's a spiraling problem. And I guess seeing it is at least one small step to changing it. So
one moment says using the system against the system is key. I completely agree.
Yeah,
I completely agree.
And I think, again, like, and since we're kind of on this kind of meta conversation, I think I just want to point anybody who is interested in that whole kind of overview. I think Caitlin Johnstone's work in general, like, does a fantastic job of addressing that, and just stating the fact that we're at this point with humanity, that if we don't change that, then we're going to face some very, very serious problems. So.
There's some very interesting ideas about how to bring the system to a grinding halt in our chat.
Yeah, I liked how somebody said we're just philosophizing.
Okay. We've still got half an hour left, so I'll go back to some documents. But yeah, the Manning stuff really moved me.
Yeah, I can see why. I noticed your tweet on that earlier. I read the quotes, and yeah, it was very. It definitely stuck in my mind the rest of the day.
I started to write that piece that I said I was going to write about Julian.
Oh yeah.
Freedom of the press. And the size of the rabbit hole that I went down, I've been in the rabbit hole for a week now, and I'm still nowhere near through it.
Totally understandable.
The interrelated issues go back, decades, in fact.
Absolutely.
Amongst that group of people, not just WikiLeaks, but the different satellite groups. I'm not talking about Manning here specifically. I'm actually talking about more the hacker communities at large.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, go back decades, and the history behind some of the relationships and the interested parties goes back decades. And I don't know, I'll never actually publish a piece until I really feel that it's cooked. Like I have like a mental microwave and it goes ding, and like, but before it will ding, I have like these mountains of research. So the other thing is that sometimes I say I will write a piece and it can take me months, but once I write it, you can guarantee that it will. One thing I can say about myself is you can guarantee it will be worth reading. It will be worth reading because I will have put the time and thought and effort into it, and I won't just publish it like just cause. So bear with me. I'm in a similar situation with the media piece too that I referenced about New Zealand. I've like got a lot of the groundwork done, but it hasn't finished processing yet.
Not a problem. I totally understand. There are pieces I work on for a number of months, and there's stuff that I write more at a faster pace because it's like just a tiny synopsis, like, hey, this event happened. This is kind of like a news piece, and it's like a couple of paragraphs, and that's a different type of concept of writing than
writing is totally different. I agree.
Than months long like investigation on an entire topic. So anyway,
the other thing that I've found historically is that when I've sat on a piece, it always ends up that then something occurs that is of massive significance to that topic, and then I know in me the time is right now, and then I put it out. And so that instinct is really helpful to know when to bide your time and when to wait, because inevitably there's some development, some reason that justifies the patience.
Definitely. No, I will be looking forward to reading both of those pieces when you do publish.
Okay, so back to the docs.
Yeah, I think once in a while, when it's relevant and when it's important, I think there are definitely some meta conversations, even though we're trying to get through specific documents that are really significant.
I just realized the other thing, like way back a bit, I said, and researching the Manning stuff, I learned some more interesting things. I learned that Manning was swimming upstream.
Oh yeah, okay.
So and there's another reference in where she talks about, I read in some NSA databases, and she talks about specific NSA databases that she had access to. Now, she wasn't at NSA. She was US Army intelligence. But she refers specifically to the different databases. There's like tiers of different databases, and she's in US Army databases, she's in diplomatic databases, she's in the NSA databases. So I thought that was very interesting because she was literally talking from the perspective of working for a customer of NSA and swimming upstream into the NSA databases.
That is incredibly
interesting. That was really interesting because we've been looking at it from the other perspective of being in NSA and allowing people to swim upstream. Now Manning was in fact one of those people who was able to swim upstream.
No, I think that's very important to read that and to see from that perspective what somebody can do with it, for sure.
Well, and what someone did do with it ultimately.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
So there's been like a positive spin-off, a positive result of them widening. I think that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that there's been this what Manning did was actually as a result of the NSA broadening, the accesses to all of the different customer groups and whatever, and allowing people to swim upstream.
Yeah, like the transformation 2.0, the result of
it. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm trying to say, is that transformation 2.0 actually has, in fact, enabled a massive transformation.
Yeah. That's very ironic to think of it that way.
It just wasn't the transformation that they were, betting on when they were making their PowerPoint documents and having their executive meetings.
Yeah.
Okay, CRD hosts second party customer relations conference. Top secret.
Interesting.
4 second party partners, being the rest of the Five Eyes, as well as their 5 of their on-site liaison officers. Now these are the NSA employees on site. The theme of the conference was customer relations, different perspectives, same goal. Now here we go again.
Global
this is back to the discussion about like national interest should mean that, you know, is inherently unable to be the same national interest as the US.
Yeah.
So same goal as the goal that's been imposed upon them by the US. It's the US's goal. Creating the global, okay, and we're back to, once again, they're referencing the business vision document, except now they're saying that there's a second party business vision. So that suggests that there was an international version and as well as an NSA version, because there was the NSA business vision document. Oh God, this is all making me wish so much that I could interview the new head, Andrew Hampton, of the GCSB in New Zealand, because I did the article called Me, You and the GCSB, where I was analysing a talk that he gave to Transparency International in New Zealand, and he was just selling them a bunch of marketing BS basically in his answers. But I would love to have him explain why the US goal is our goal. Yeah. And where the line between New Zealand's national interest and the United States national interest is, and in what way that's exercised through the GCSB relationship with the NSA.
Yeah.
I would love to see him stumble over those answers. This is all just international versions of what they were already doing, basically. Like we've already, in the previous year, we've read about internal NSA focus on exactly the same thing. But now they're just rolling it out to the second party partners.
So yeah, it's an expansion of these previously implemented programs.
In business, we would have internal and external versions of the same document. So the internal version would contain our own strategic vision, but then when we went to present those to customers, we would create a tailored version of exactly the same document. This is standard corporate practice. And that's exactly what these guys are doing. So they have their internal business vision, they have their internal strategic goals, and et cetera, and then they're just creating an external facing version that is you know, suitable to whatever it is they're trying to sell to or get from those second party partners, but they're basing it off their own internal stuff and then just tailoring it. Creating and fostering a Five Eyes customer service community to satisfy customer needs. I mean, these are like, they're literally taking the exact same terminology that they used in their internal documents and then just like putting Five Eyes.
Exactly. Interesting. I appreciate seeing that they actually spell out that the second parties are the British government, communications headquarters, the Australian, DSD, GCSB. I like seeing them specify that.
Well, second tier is always Five Eyes. Okay.
24. Social functions calendar.
No, it's nothing.
Yeah, and I apologize if anybody can hear me scribbling in the background as we go through these. I just find it a lot more helpful for me to write things down by hand. I guess if I was typing them, you'd probably just hear me clicking the entire time.
Okay, this is the Japan stuff that was in the Yokota Air Base, Japan. This was in the intercept reporting.
We've gotten through a lot of documents today.
Oh, did you see the Outer Light did a segment on us actually while we were live last time?
I did not see that. I remember you saying that. I didn't see it. That's interesting. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool of him to do that. I didn't realize it, but he was actually telling people like they're live now, go and watch them now, which is really, really cool.
That's wonderful.
I think I shared it. It's on my timeline somewhere. It was like 4 or 5 minutes worth. But he actually put like in the description, he's like, have you ever wanted to see what journalists are thinking and doing when they're writing an article? Like, now is your chance. And that was the aspect of what we were doing that he found the most fascinating, is that he could actually, for the first time, watch the research process.
Yeah.
Of journalists working on stuff like this, which I thought like, wow, yeah, he's right. I'd been thinking of it as like being significant because of the material being Snowden files, but he was just like, just the fact that you get to watch journalists doing what journalists do is in itself like unique.
Yeah, and to help, and I mean the audience is also helping us, and they're contributing and like being active in that as well. And I kind of dislike the term crowdsourcing, but I like the term collaborating better. But I think I get the biggest kick out of knowing that people are reading this with us and are finding out new information and learning as I learn, and we're all kind of teaching each other. And I think
this is such a massive learning curve. I mean, I know I've said it before, but it's true. Like, I learned so much stuff that I just didn't know, and it's ironic when I've been writing about this stuff for years, I still feel like like I didn't know who special source operations were, that they were responsible for PRISM, and now I do. So
that was, I think, the biggest piece of information for me that we've looked at this evening, like learning wise.
Just telling people we're on for about 15 minutes, so if they want to come and say hi, they can do it right now.
Yeah, I'll throw that out in a few places.
Yeah, we've got through a lot of docs so far. Okay, let's finish this one off. Okay, so they decorate their doors to their rooms on 4th of July.
Odd.
Our engineers made detailed measurements and drew plans for our construction. Our electrical experts figured out how to run the lighting. Our craft people... Oh, funny.
Oh, thank you, someone in the chat for throwing the link down there of the Adelaide. I remember I saw you all talking about it and I heard Suzie mention it. I'm just going to mute that. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the link.
Oh, interesting. Major changes to the issue management team program.
Interesting they didn't redact that name.
Yeah, if they've been published somewhere prior in the public arena before, then they don't redact them.
They don't have counterintelligence in their current IMTs.
There's a fewer teams. Okay. So they had a team for each of these before, and they've cut the number of teams down, but with a full-fledged effort directed against each remaining focal area. The number of teams was reduced by half, scaling from 14 to 7. In some cases, they were merged, and in some cases, dissolved. So they've just turned it into basically the continents plus the main theatres of operation.
It's interesting that, yeah,
so, I mean, it's pretty common sense. Like, global geopolitical issues will now be related to whichever continent those issues are about, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Crime and narcotics has now been assigned to Latin America as opposed to its own issue. Right, okay. Okay. And that was number 28.
Making good progress. Even with the discussion on Manning for a while, we've gotten through a lot.
Really good. I think Manning is so significant because it's just that perspective. It's that perspective of being a person of conscience and morality who is inside and who does things differently, who makes different choices from the rest of the workforce.
Definitely.
And achieves different things. And suffers a hard, long road for it. But life has a funny way of rewarding the people who suffer, who make those right choices. You know, it's not easy and it hurts and there's a lot of sacrifices, but there's a funny way of rewarding them at the end. Eventually. I don't think Manning would do anything differently. I think that's the common thread between all of the whistleblowers, is that they actually wouldn't do anything differently. When you act on conscience, you don't regret it, no matter what the result is.
Yeah, sticking with your principles. And it's so rare. I mean, we could go off on this tangent for a while, but it's so rare to have people that actually have principles that they actually live by or stick to. They're very standout, amazing people.
I'd like it to be less rare. I'd like to think that it's less.
I know, but it really is now, you know, and it's sad that it is.
I would like to think that us millennials are not so materialistic as people might think, and that maybe we do have a conscience and maybe we do reject the old ways. And I would like to hope that the Gen Zers even more so.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, they're growing up in an extremely messed up world and environment.
I guess the fact that we're trying to do this and that you've tried to do this speaks that at some level it has to. This hasn't been done before, and here we are, we're trying. So
I think people have to see that there is an alternative. And so I think each time we have a Manning or we have a Snowden, that it does plant that seed that you can make different choices in the same environment as a bunch of sheep that are all making the same choices. you can be the one that makes different choices.
Definitely.
Okay, do you guys have any questions? Thank you all for watching. Sorry, we got a bit philosophical tonight, but the Manning stuff has really been sticking with me all week, because how incredible to have a person of conscience inside the system with all of the tools of the system at their disposal.
Definitely.
How incredible. Thank you to Blake, and thank you to someone, and to Matt, and thank you to Crockatoo as well. You guys have been amazing help. Thank you for the information about the special sources operation.
Yeah,
that was really helpful to have. Really cool.
And thank you, Fly, as well. We've got like about 8 minutes, I think, 7 or 8 minutes.
Thanks for joining us, Wine. God, I'd really love to do this in daylight. It would be so nice to not have like the shine of my monitor glare off my like forehead.
Yeah, well, with the daylight savings being gone, it's nighttime here by the time we are on, but it's definitely a more livable time than what you're going through.
Yeah, my body clock is pretty messed up at the moment, but I'm still alive and kicking, so it's all good.
Yeah, so by the time we speak again, it'll be Tuesday. I'm hoping that I'll have an article up by then on those first couple of really significant documents that we looked at last time, for sure, and maybe include some of the discussion we had about Manning as well. I think that would be really interesting.
I nearly didn't wear any makeup tonight. I was gonna rebel. I was fully gonna rebel. I showed up at like 6 minutes before with no makeup on whatsoever. Pretty determined, but then Elizabeth looked so beautiful, and so I was like, oh, I better like make an effort for everyone. So I threw some on.
Yeah, anybody who knows me in real life knows that I don't wear makeup, so this is a whole new experiment for me. So
I will literally run to my makeup room after this and take it all off.
Yeah, no, it's very odd for me to do, but I just felt like if we're trying to sort of be professional, I guess it's just one of the things you do. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it's been fun talking to everybody. I'm so glad that so many people are helping us out and researching this information with us. It's just really great to see.
That's fascinating. One just said one wonders how many people are caught before they get their piece of the truth out, and we never hear about them.
Very true.
Oh, that is horrible.
All that we just don't know about yet.
Things to contemplate.
And there may be some future people that are considering this, or are in the process of doing these things that we don't know about, and hopefully we will hear about them in a positive way at some point, but you just never know.
I remember Sarah Harrison and Jacob Applebaum saying at a summer event in 2015 that they would like there to be Snowden that doesn't, and this wasn't a disparagement on Snowden at all, but they were saying like you can do something similar to what he did without anybody ever actually knowing.
Exactly. I bet there are people doing
now,
that.
I don't think you could on the scale that he did, because I think the scale of the information that he took and the seriousness of it, it would have come straight back, to him. So I think he absolutely did the best that he could do under the circumstances, and I personally believe he made the right choices in getting the hell out of there and staying the hell out of there.
Yeah.
But they were saying that it is possible to leak without anyone ever knowing that you've leaked. And I think I find the idea or the knowledge now that you can work on the inside for the right side.
Yeah.
I find that to be like quite incredible. Stephen, are you referencing the document where it was the Palestinian analyst, wasn't it, who was working for NSA, and their description of the Israel-Palestine conflict? I think that's what you're talking about. Thank you, guys. Okay.
Yeah, we've just
see
got like
you all on Tuesday. Thank you so much. And we will see you soon.
Thank you everyone so much. It's been a great time collaborating with Suzie and working on this. So thank you for watching.
What a beautiful big purple hat. Night, night.
Bye.
Always keep fighting. Don't worry about that. Night, night.